Look, I'm not crazy. I like going fast. Really fast. Faster than anyone else. My name's Kai, and for as long as I can remember, the smell of petrol and burnt rubber has been home. I'm 29, and most nights you can find me on the asphalt veins that snake around this city, pushing my dad's old modified machine to its absolute limit. It's a 98, but it's not stock. Nothing stock. The engine is a Frankenstein's monster I built myself, and the chassis is reinforced in ways that probably aren't legal. It's the same car he was in when he vanished years ago, but that's a whole other story. It still smells faintly of his cigarettes and old vinyl. It's the only part of him I have left. My job? Well, let's just say my job is making other so-called pros eat my dust in the underground scene. I know these roads. I own them. I can tell you where every pothole is, how every corner tightens, how the air feels just before dawn. Especially Blackwood Pass. That stretch, it's my masterpiece, my obsession. Everyone else avoids it, especially after dark. They whisper about it, say it's cursed, haunted, whatever. I used to laugh at that. For me, it was just the ultimate test. A tight, two-lane nightmare of blind crests and off-camber corners with no runoff, just trees and rock. My goal was simple. Conquer it, tame it, be the king of the one road everyone else was terrified of. It's where my dad made his name, and it's where I was going to make mine. But here's the thing you gotta understand. I'm not scared of crashing. Not really. I mean, I've seen what it does. I saw it up close. Years ago, my best friend and biggest rival, Cassius, he bought it on Blackwood Pass. We were kids, really, just 19, thinking we were gods. We were neck and neck, pushing maybe 180 kph. 1 second, he was there, a blur of red taillights right next to me. The next, just screaming metal and fire. I was the first one to his car. I remember the smell. Not just petrol, but something else. Something hot and coppery. I carry that. Of course I do. You don't see something like that and just forget it. But it didn't stop me. Nothing could. The thrill was always bigger than the fear. That's just how I'm wired. My hands don't shake, my heart doesn't hammer. When I'm behind the wheel, I'm in control. That's my skill. That's my one true thing. Or at least, that's what I thought. Lately, something's different on the pass. It's not just tarmac and trees anymore. I've seen things. Things that shouldn't be there. Flickers in the corner of my eye. Shapes that move with me, matching me, no matter how fast I go. They slip between the trees, just at the edge of my headlights. It's not a car. It's not another racer. It's something else. Something that feels old and wrong and hungry. My usual tricks, my focus, my nerves of steel, they don't work on this. This is a new kind of fear. It's cold, it's deep, and it gets right inside the car with me. For the first time in my life, I'm not sure I can outrun what's chasing me. They say the road is haunted. I'm starting to believe them. And I think the ghosts are getting faster.
It started small, or maybe I just told myself it was small. It was a Tuesday, just after 2 a.m. Perfect conditions, cool air, sticky asphalt. The road was all mine. I was trying to beat my own record on the pass, pushing the car into the high 190s. The engine was singing, a perfect high RPM whine. I came into the S-bend, a tight left-right that catches everyone out. I know it like the back of my hand. Brake late, turn in, clip the apex, let the car drift just to the edge of the white line, catch it with the throttle, and power through. I came around the blind left, and my headlights hit something. It was big, dark and right in the middle of my lane. I didn't even think. My foot went through the floor. I stood on the brakes hard. The ABS hammered my foot, the whole car shuddered, and my rear end tried to overtake me. I fought the wheel, countersteering, feeling the tires smoke and skip, right on the edge of losing it completely. I brought the car to a stop, sideways in the road, maybe a meter from where the thing was. My heart was going, but not from fear, from the rush. I sat there, breathing hard, the smell of hot brakes and scorched rubber filling the car. I looked up, ready to yell at whatever idiot or animal I'd nearly turned into paste. There was nothing there. I mean, nothing. The road was empty. I unbuckled, my hands feeling a little floaty. I got out and walked the 30 meters back. No blood, no fur, no broken bits of anything. Not even scuff marks on the road, other than my own 4 black lines of rubber. I just stood there, my car ticking as it cooled. I told myself it was road hypnosis, a shadow, a trick of the light. But I saw it. I reacted to it. My brakes were smoking, my hands were shaking, and not from the thrill. I got back in, turned the car around, and drove home, and I didn't look in the rearview mirror once. I stayed away for a week. I worked on the engine, told myself I was just tired, over-caffeinated, but I couldn't stay away. The pass was my road. I wasn't going to be spooked off it by a shadow. I went back on a Saturday. I was angry. I was going to prove a point. I took the S-bend faster than ever, just to spite the memory. Nothing. The road was clear. I laughed, the tension breaking. I was an idiot. I relaxed, and that's when it happened. I was on the long straight, foot to the floor, topping 220 kph. The car was screaming, and I felt the temperature drop. A real physical drop. I saw my breath fog in the air. I glanced at the temp gauge. Normal. And then I saw the handprint. It was on the inside of my passenger window. It wasn't just there. It was appearing. A pale, greasy print, slowly appearing as if someone was pressing it against the glass from the empty seat beside me. I yelled. I couldn't help it. A full-on stupid scream. I jerked the wheel, a full-on panic reaction. The car snapped sideways, tires screaming. I was just a passenger for a second, sliding, seeing the dark trees rush towards me. I wrestled it back, heart trying to punch its way out of my chest, and stomped the brakes, bringing the car to a messy, smoking halt. I sat there frozen, staring at the passenger window. The handprint was gone. I scrambled out of the driver's side, almost falling over. I ran around the car. The window was clear, empty. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and shined it on the glass from every angle, inside and out. Nothing. No grease, no print. But I'd seen it. I know what I saw. I've been in high-speed drifts. I've nearly crashed. I've faced down rivals. I know what adrenaline feels like. This wasn't adrenaline. This was terror. Cold, clean, and absolute. Something had been in the car with me.
I didn't drive for days. I couldn't even look at my car. I'd go into the garage, smell the petrol, and just feel cold. That same cold from the long straight. I was sleeping with the lights on. My nerves of steel were gone. I was just a jumpy wreck. I had to know. I had to have an answer that wasn't I'm losing my mind. If I couldn't drive, I'd dig. I went online. I started digging into Blackwood Pass. It didn't take long. The locals didn't just call it the Pass. The old-timers, the ones who knew the stories, they called it the Widow's Mile.
The name was literal. I found digital archives of the local paper, decades of stories, fatal accidents, horrific mangled wrecks, all on that 1 mile stretch. 1957, a family of 4, head-on with a logging truck. The article said the sedan was unrecognizable. 1972, a biker decapitated by a guardrail. 1989, 2 kids on prom night drove straight off the hairpin. On and on and on. And then I found the weird stuff, local legends, forum posts from 20 years ago, stories of drivers swerving to avoid phantom hitchhikers or screaming faces in the trees, people reporting their steering wheels locking up or their brakes failing, only for the car to be fine when the tow truck got there. The same stories over and over for 50 years. And then I found a small forum post that mentioned a local racer who vanished on the pass in the late 90s. No name, just a legend in a Supra. My blood went cold. Denial is a strong drug. I read all that and I still told myself it was just superstition, folklore. It was in my head. I'd read the stories and my mind was playing tricks. The handprint was a smudge. The shadow in the S-bend was a deer. I had to be sure. I had to go back. I had to prove it was nothing. I went back last night, but I didn't go to race. I drove slowly, like a normal person. All my windows up, doors locked. It was dead quiet. The air was still. I got to the S-bend, nothing. I got to the long straight, nothing. I stopped the car right where I'd seen the handprint. I killed the engine. The silence was deafening. Just the tick, tick, tick of the cooling exhaust. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes. Nothing. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. See? Nothing. Just a road. I put my hand on the key to start the car, and that's when I heard it. A soft thump on the roof, like someone had dropped a handful of gravel on it. I froze. Another thump, and then a scraping sound, like metal dragging on metal, right above my head. I looked up. Then, slowly, I looked in my rearview mirror. It was dark, but my brake lights were on, casting a dim red glow. And in that glow, I saw them. They weren't in the trees. They were on the road, behind me, just standing there. There were maybe a dozen of them, pale, translucent shapes. They looked like, well, they looked like what I'd read about. Mangled. One was just a torso, dragging itself with its arms. Another's head was twisted completely backward. I could see the red, wet ruin of a face on one. One was horribly burned, its skin like melted plastic. They all looked broken, like the victims of a high-speed crash. I couldn't breathe. My nerves of steel were just gone. I was just a terrified kid. I couldn't move, couldn't think. And then one of them, the one at the front, the one with the twisted backward head, it stopped. It slowly, with a sound like wet branches snapping, turned its head all the way around to face me. It didn't have any eyes, just black, gaping holes. It opened its mouth, and it pointed right at me. This wasn't in my head. This was real. And I knew right then that I'd just broken a rule. I wasn't just a racer passing through. I had stopped. I had seen them. And now they have seen me.
I don't remember starting the car. I don't remember spinning it 180 degrees or the sound the tires made as they tore up the asphalt. I just remember the red of my taillights painting those awful broken shapes as I fled. I didn't go back. I locked the car in the garage and didn't open the door. But word gets around. Diaz, a new guy in the scene, young, loud, and way too aggressive, heard I'd lost my nerve. He'd been wanting a shot at me for months. He called me out, publicly, at our usual meet spot. Said I was a coward. Said I'd gone soft, just like my old man. That did it. The fear was still there, cold and heavy, but the rage was hotter. He demanded a race. The proving ground? The Widow's Mile. The night of the race, everything felt wrong. The air was heavy and still. There was no thrill, no electric buzz, just a cold, sinking pit in my stomach. Diaz was there, his engine revving, drowning out the silence. He grinned at me, but his eyes were manic. He wanted to be king. We launched. For the first kilometer, it was just a race. I was pulling on him, my car feeling strong. I started to think, maybe it was just a nightmare. Maybe they only come out if you stop. Then, my breath fogged. I looked at Diaz. He saw it too. His grin was gone. He was yelling something inside his car. The first one appeared in the S-bend, the same one I'd seen. A figure right in the apex. I slammed the brakes, my instincts taking over, and drifted around it, my rear bumper missing it by inches. Diaz wasn't so lucky. He locked up, went wide, and barely kept it off the wall, his car scraping the rock. He was panicked, I could see it. He was driving sloppy, trying to catch me, but his focus was gone. Then they came out in force. It wasn't just one or two. They were lining the road, dozens of them, mangled, broken, all of them staring. Their silent screams. I swear I could feel them in my teeth, a high-pitched vibration. A spectral car, a twisted, burnt-out wreck from the 70s, pulled out from the trees right in front of Diaz. He swerved hard. It was just like with Cassius. The blur of taillights, the awful final sound of screaming metal. But this time, there was no fire, just the sound of his car cartwheeling down the cliff into the darkness. And then, silence. And then, I was alone. This is what I feared. Not the crash, not the speed. This. The road itself came alive. The ghosts weren't just on the side anymore. They were on me. Hands, pale and wet, slapped against my windshield, leaving greasy trails that vanished. A face, a woman with no jaw, pressed itself against my driver's side window, her eyes wide and black, locked on mine. I was going 200 kph, but I had no control. My skill meant nothing. My nerves of steel were a joke. I was just a kid, white-knuckled, screaming, crying. The car was skidding, the wheel fighting me, but it wasn't the road. It was them. They were creating phantom obstacles. The asphalt felt like ice, then gravel, then nothing at all. I was trying to outmaneuver things that weren't there, things that were only in my head but had real physical weight. This was the trap. This was the true horror. They weren't going to make me crash. They were going to make me lose control. I wasn't driving. I was just surviving. I was wrestling with my own mind, my own fear. I didn't even see the finish line, an old-growth oak we used as a marker. I just felt the car cross it, and suddenly, they were gone. The air was clear, the windows were clean. The screaming stopped.
I brought the car to a stop. The engine ticked in the silence. I sat there for, I don't know, a long time. I was shaking, a deep, uncontrollable tremor that started in my bones and wouldn't stop. My hands were still locked on the wheel, but they weren't mine. They were useless, white-knuckled claws. I couldn't have unbent my fingers if I'd tried. My entire life, speed was my shield. Control was my god. That road, that car, it was my connection to my father, my mastery over my fear, my entire identity. And in one night, they took it all. They proved my control was an illusion. They proved my nerves of steel were just plain fear. I hadn't met the right monster yet. I wasn't the king of Blackwood Pass. I was just the latest fool who thought he was. I didn't win. I just escaped. They let me go. Diaz, they didn't. Maybe they'd let Cassius go too if he hadn't crashed first. Or maybe he crashed because of them. I'd never know. I turned the key. The engine died. I unbuckled my harness. The click of the buckle sounded like a gunshot in the silence. I opened the car door. I didn't look back. I just got out and I started walking. I left it all right there on the Widow's Mile. My dad's car, my reputation, my whole life. I walked all the way back to town. It took hours. That was 6 months ago. I don't drive anymore, not even to the shops. I sold the Supra for scrap. Couldn't even open the garage door again. The thrill is gone. That razor's edge I lived on, it was just the edge of a grave. I came looking for my dad's legacy, but all I found were the things that haunt that road. I know they're still there. I know what they are. They aren't just ghosts. They're the road itself. They're the speed. They're the crash. I see Diaz's face sometimes, and Cassius's, and the woman with no jaw. They say I lost my nerve. They're right. I'm not a racer. I'm just the guy who survived. I don't know if my dad did, but I know they're still there, waiting for the next guy who thinks he's fast enough.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. The things that go bump in the night are hungry for attention. By liking and subscribing, you're telling me you want more. You're helping me bring even more chilling tales and terrifying content to life.